11月8日金曜日、現在は夜の22時25分を回るところになります。本日は、アメリカの雇用統計発表日、あと5分ほどで発表されるという時間帯で、23時ちょうどまで、録画していきたいと思っております。現在のレートですが、ユーロドルが 1.34 の23、ドル円が98円の08銭、ユーロ円が131円の65銭、オージードルが 0.94 の62で推移しております。ご存知の通り、昨日、ECB がですね、サプライズ利下げをしてですね、ユーロドル、ドル円もそうですけども、ちょっと大荒れの、値動きに、昨日はなってしまいまして、その余韻を引きずりながらの、今回の雇用統計ということになりますけども、事前予想の数字が出てまして、非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの12万人で、失業率が 7.3% という、予想が出てますね。今回は、先月のアメリカの、政府機関一部閉鎖の影響とかも、あってですね、ちょっとかなり、弱い事前予想にはなってるかなと思いますけども、悪くなるということは結構織り込んできていると思うので、よほどそうですね、10万割るとかっていう数字が出ない限りはですね、今日はあんまり動かないんじゃないかなと、個人的には思っております。
had hit records earlier this week. We are on the markets again in 30 minutes. And here's a look at our Bloomberg top headlines. More trouble for Tesla. Another of the Model S cars caught fire, making it the third in just 5 weeks.
そうですね、やっぱりユーロドルと、ユーロ円ですかね、の下落がやっぱり、昨日の下落がすごかったかなというのがありますけども、ユーロ円は思いっきり下落してますけども、ユーロドルは、半値以上結構戻してきたところがあるので、ちょっとそれがですね、全体としては、売りかとは思うんですけども、この後ちょっとどう動くのかっていうのが、興味深いところではありますね。あとドル円に関してはですね、昨日99円の40銭ぐらいまであったんですけども、これも、完全に上髭になってますので、そうですね、ああいう値動きを見てると、年内の99円台とか、100円とかっていうのはちょっと厳しいんじゃないかなというような、感じの値動きにはなってたかと思いますけども、個人的にはドル円も、年内の、3桁っていうのはもうほぼなくなったかなという感じで見ております。
The number of films shot in New York City has increased more than 40% in the last couple of years. And it's a boon for the small screen, too. The amount of TV shows shot in the city has grown 50% in the same period. New York's production industry now employs 130,000 people. That's a rise of more than 400% in the last 9 years. But all that might be expected. Here's what's not. From the Blue Ridge Mountains to the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia's landscape isn't just for lovers anymore. Thanks to films like Lincoln, Killing Kennedy, and Captain Phillips, Virginia has seen a nearly 16% increase in jobs in its film industry over the last 2 years. During that same period,
雇用統計発表まであと1分少々という、ところになりましたので、ちょっと発表の瞬間をですね、待ちたいと思います。
And that bodes well for jobs in the state, where if you work in film, you can rake in about $1,300 a week. That's 23% more than the state's average weekly wage for all other industries. Well, we are just about moments away from that October jobs report, and we have full team coverage for you on this Friday. John Herman is a director and rate strategist at Mitsubishi UFJ Securities economics editor Mike McKee will have the real deal on the economy and what these numbers mean for the Fed. Markets reporter Olivia Stearns is tracking any reaction in the markets, and Chief Washington correspondent Peter Cook is at the Labor Department. He will have those numbers in just a few seconds. Here is what we're looking for. We're looking for the jobless rate to rise to 7.3%. That would reverse a decline. That would reverse 3 months of declines. Also, 120,000 jobs are expected to have been created in October. That would be the second smallest increase in jobs for this year. So nobody's expecting a home run here in jobs. Peter?
A home run, Betty. 204,000 jobs added in the month of October, but there is a lot of noise with this report. The unemployment rate does tick up to 7.3%. Let me walk you through it here, but the bottom line is the labor market was healthier going into the shutdown than perhaps a lot of economists thought. Unemployment again going up 7.3%. Revisions here add another 60,000 jobs. 204,000, that was well above our survey number. 212 private sector jobs in the month of October. The 3-month average now for jobs, 202,000 jobs. That could be significant to the Federal Reserve. Again, the August number bumped up to 238,000. That was a much
結
stronger
果
month.
出てきましたね。非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの 20.4 万人ですね。市場数がプラスの12万人だったので、かなりいい数字が出てますね。で失業率は事前予想と一緒の 0.1 ポイント悪化の 7.3% という数字が出てきてますね。非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの20万4000人。で、失業率が 7.3% という結果が出てきております。それを受けてドル買いの流れにまたなってきてるんですかね。ユーロドルが下がってドル円が上昇してというような、足元そういう、ね、動きになっております。
Handout that was given to us in the lockup period in addition to the normal numbers. But again, 7.3 is the unemployment rate, first increase we've seen since April. Well, who was hiring last month? Professional and business services up 44,000, retail up 44,000, leisure and hospitality up 53,000. Average hourly earnings month over month up 0.1%, year over year 2.2%, and the average hours, the average work week 34.4 hours. Bottom line, Betty, there's going to be a lot for people to digest in this report, some confusion because of the government shutdown, but I think people are going to focus in on the establishment survey, the private sector hiring 212,000 in the month of October and stronger in the prior months as well.
Okay, very interesting here, Peter. Stay with me. Olivia, watching futures, there was a sharp fall here on these numbers.
Yeah, Betty, we're seeing sharp falls across the board. We're seeing a sharp fall in the dollar right now. We're seeing a sharp fall in S&P futures. We're also seeing bond yields.
先月そうですね、ご存知の通りアメリカの政府機関の一部閉鎖とかもありましたので、かなり悪い数字が出てくるんじゃないかと予想されてましたけども、ちょっと意外や意外プラス 20.4 万人ということなので、まあ来月あたりにもしかしたら下方修正ががっつり入る可能性もありますけども、一応目先としては、この数字をかなり交換しているような動きになってますかね。ユーロドルとかも昨日がっつり下げた後にはですね、半値以上戻してたんですけども、また再び 1.34 割り込んでいるような動きになってますので、ちょっともう一回ドル円も上昇してますので、もう一度ドル買いの流れに回帰しているような状況になってますね。やっぱりちょっとプラス 20.4 万人という数字はかなりサプライズでしたね。
And we don't have a good answer to that. You take a look at the revisions, yes, more people were added to payrolls, and the establishment survey was good, but then you don't have the answer on the other side to hours worked because that comes into the household survey. We're not sure that number didn't move at all, 34.8. You're still a little bit down from where you were in terms of pressure on companies to add more people. It's going to take another month or two, but it does bring the Fed back into play, which is why you're seeing this reaction that Olivia was talking about with futures lower. People had been saying, well, maybe they might do something in December, particularly after those two Fed papers this past week talked about getting out of QE and more forward guidance. It could be a live possibility if this is the kind of job creation we see holding into November. Hard to make a whole lot out of anything else, except for maybe something like manufacturing employment up 19,000. That's good news. But the rest of it, we're going to have to wait for the November report to see if we get confirmation.
Guys, just stay with me. Let me bring in John Herman here with us from Mitsubishi UFJ. And John, you know, traditionally you have been, I know, on the top end of forecasts here on jobs. And you came out, you said 142,000 jobs you expected, but you said there was going to be a 45,000 job drag from the government shutdown, and we all seem to have missed what's going on here.
I think, you know, the other signals were really, really positive. We pointed out that the JOLTS data leading out of the summer was gathering momentum. The temporary job hiring announcements are the best in the history of the United States, even surpassing last year. So we expected, we were looking for 200,000 next month and 200,000 December, but we got this even sooner. And we were also looking for a substantial upper revision to September, and even that surpasses. So we felt actually a little uncomfortable being too overly optimistic, and yet the data actually came in the way it really should have. So I think you're seeing despite all the moving parts, I think you're getting a really clean read on what's going on.
Are we set for, because you've been talking about this, over 200,000 job creation now from now on here in monthly
I think what
reports?
you're going to look for, you know, people don't like to get too bulled up because of what we've seen and so on, but we have really good momentum in the economy. The fourth quarter should be a spectacular quarter for temporary jobs. Last year we saw 30% of those jobs were retained in the first quarter, which is excellent. People moved from part-time status to full-time status. It was great for their families, great for their households. We look for that kind of thing to happen again this year. All we need is consumers to just get a little more confidence, to just start spending and not being so worried all the time.
Well, we're heading to the holiday season. We got lower gas prices. Stocks are at record highs. And, you know, frankly speaking, you know, have we gotten too depressed here in our outlooks? Remember, GDP came in much better than expected. 2.8%. We all missed what was going on, you know, in the third quarter on that front. So have we all gotten a bit too pessimistic?
We were disheartened by when we don't function. Americans are used to just delivering the goods all the time. And when we see our own government not doing that, it's very disheartening. So people, you know, we're rattled a little bit. But I think what we should see is this kind of report will really tell consumers, look, don't worry too much now. Start going back to your normal life. Go spend. You have an early Hanukkah this year. You've got Christmas coming up in a short time span right after Thanksgiving. Let's, you know, the weather's getting cooler. It's time to get back in the game. Apple launched new products. Let's go.
Mike?
Yeah, I want to bring in something we didn't even mention here, and that is we had the income and spending report for September that we had delayed, and it just came out at the same time as the labor report. Wages and salaries up 0.4%, a pretty good performance, John. It does suggest that the hourly wage number may be a little distorted in the employment report. Not as good news, but that is what you want to see, is wages and salaries starting to rise.
Exactly. You want to see people, you want to see their take-home pay, not just the jobs expanding, but you'd also like to see people's take-home pay increasing as well. So I think, you know, you have to attribute this good report to two things. On the one hand, the resilience of the American people, and on the other hand, the leadership out of businesses saying we will follow through on the temporary staffing. We will ramp up. We will hold on to our jobs. We saw that actually when they shut the government down in, you know, in that little time period in August of 2011, and sentiment plummeted, and yet businesses said we're going to hold on to people, and they held on, and things got better. And you know, it's really remarkable that business leaders do that.
So there's the establishment survey, and then there's a household survey. And I know, Peter, you've got a bit more on what's going on in the household survey.
Well, I just think there are going to be some real questions about, especially the household survey, how much people can really bank on this report. And I want to show you again, we get several documents in the traditional lockup here, and we got one extra one. That is this 6-page handout, and it basically walks us through 8 questions surrounding the collection of this data, both the establishment and household survey, and how the shutdown affected the Labor Department's ability to collect this information, what happened during the survey period. Again, the statement they make here is that there was no discernible impact on the establishment survey, but that's not the case for the household survey. And one particular issue that I think is going to pop up, and that is how federal workers who were furloughed were actually accounted for here. In some cases, they were listed as absent from work, but should have been classified as unemployed, as temporary layoff. This overall unemployment rate, well, what they're saying, Betty, is that there wouldn't have been a substantive change in the unemployment rate had they all been classified properly. But there clearly is some noise here. People are going to have some questions about that.
But I think so we will go through it carefully. But they already advised us that expect the number to be biased higher. That was the first point. I made some phone calls.
So does that make this jobless rate, because furloughed workers, because of how do you count them, is really going to impact the jobless rate more temporarily? So do we throw out this jobless rate?
Throw it out. I would say throw it out, because we're going back down. We should end the year in the early part of next year. We should be at 7.1% unemployment rate, and I think we're going to be closer to 7% by probably when you see that February report, early part of next year. So I think people that will ultimately filter its way into consumer confidence, which unfortunately took a hit.
Yeah.
Betty, but the participation rate, I want to know if John Herman takes what he takes with this.
雇用統計発表から10分経過しまして、ただいま22時40分を回るところになりますけども、今回のアメリカの雇用統計、非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの 20.4 万人、失業率が 7.3% ということで、非農業部門雇用者数の事前予想がですね、プラスの12万人だったことから考えると、かなり良かった数字、サプライズになりましたね。10月は政府機関が一部閉鎖されてたりとかっていう状況があって、その影響でかなり数字が悪くなるんだろうという感じで予想されてたんですけども、蓋を開けてみるとですね、プラス20万4千人ということなので、ちょっと来月以降、大きく下方修正がもしかしたら入るかもしれませんけども、足元の数字だけで見るとですね、市場の方もかなり交換してドル買いの流れになっている状況ですね。それを受けてユーロドルが 1.33 の73まで落ちてきてまして、あとドル円が98円の70銭まで上昇してきてますね。あと釣られるような形でオージードルもちょっと下がってきてますかね。 0.94 の05まで下がってきております。
Is the response rate for the establishment survey was above average. They got more reporting than they otherwise would during the period. And I did ask the question in there whether or not that had an impact here, and it wasn't clear to me that it has a direct impact right here on the results themselves.
Mike, that's actually a really good point. Yeah. We put out a note on that earlier this week, and what we saw in the previous shutdown, 1995-96, that it actually did help to boost the reporting rate, and that did help push the numbers up. But I would not say that that's overstating it. What it does is that the subsequent upward revision has now been sort of encapsulated here in this report, and it's a solid straight read.
John, thank you. John Herman, rate strategist at Mitsubishi UFJ, and also economics editor Mike McKee, our chief Washington correspondent Peter Cook, and also Olivia Stearns, who's been tracking the markets. We'll be back in 2 minutes right here on In the Loop. you know, we were all surprised here on the jobs report in October. 204,000 jobs created, much higher than almost any economist estimate of 100, and the average was about 120,000. The jobless rate, though, ticking up to 7.3%. That number would have been more influenced by what we saw in October, the 16-day government shutdown. For more on the number, I want to bring in a man who lives and breathes data, Bloomberg surveillance anchor Tom Keene. Give me your take.
My take on this is John Herman has the clearest crystal ball of anybody on Wall Street. He has been a piñata because he's optimistic. And once again, he's essentially absolutely nailed it with this number. Jim Glassman framed it, Betty, as 150,000. Just big number, 200-some thousand with a constructive revision. Within that, there's a lot of shutdown noise here. Victoria Stilwell in our Washington office writing about that relationship of politics into jobs. We've definitely seen that here. I would say the one thing that sticks out is the labor participation rate is like this, and then goes like this, which is that government shutdown.
It is. And to your point with John, I mean, what he has been saying all along is that, look, we are poised to get to this point in the labor market where we are going to make more than 200,000 jobs a month, that this is an economy that can support that, and it is creating that. And, you know, maybe this is the start of that.
We're waiting for that, and then combined with it, you need to have the wage growth that goes with it. I don't hear anybody, including Mr. Herman, suggesting we've reached so-called escape velocity for this job economy. What does it mean for our viewers? What it means for our viewers is a lot of noise. We get on to next month's report, and we got to get a trend going here to get us to wherever you think the unemployment rate should be. What I begin to notice is those cautious really begin to extend out where Chairman Yellen can feel comfortable about the American labor economy. Bill Gross just saying that with us. I know you've got Mohamed El-Arian coming up in a bit.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, for the American public, what they want to see is that jobless rate. They want to see that jobless rate come down. You know, it was at 7.9% in January. It's 7.3, but that's not good enough.
Absolutely
for them to
not
make
acceptable.
Better.
And the idea that Eric Rosengren at the Boston Fed would suggest 6.5 as a target, let's make clear to the president or presidents to come, 6.5% is completely unacceptable. Jim Glassman says we've got to drive under 5%, which will essentially take forever. You'll have your first gray hair by then.
Oh, Tom, please don't tell that to me.
2019. It's there. It's coming.
Tom Keene of Bloomberg Surveillance. And we'll return in 2 minutes with more on the jobs report. Stay with us.
雇用統計発表から20分経過しまして、ただいま22時50分を回るところになります。 今回の雇用統計ですけども、非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの20万4000人、失業率が 7.3% ということで、非農業部門雇用者数が大幅に、改善している、ちょっとサプライズ的な結果になりましたね。それを受けて、現在レートですが、ユーロドルが 1.3363、ドル円が98円の76銭、ユーロ円が132円の、ちょうど、オージードルが 0.93 の91ということで、また再び、ドル買いの流れが強まるような、状況になってきていますね。ユーロドルは下落し、ドル円は上昇しということなので、昨日ちょっと両方ともそのシナリオは、ロンドンフィックス以降に崩されているので、ちょっとこのままついていくのもどうかなっていうのはあるんですけども、一応目先の動きとしてはですね、サプライズ的な結果になった雇用統計を、交換してドルが買われるような、状況になっています。
Bloomberg surveillance anchor Sarah Eisen spoke with the Postmaster General and CEO Patrick Donahoe about cash at hand at the post office.
We have about 9-10 days of cash on hand. We're a big cash business, so every day $250 million in cash comes in the front door, so we're okay that way.
So we're all wondering what's going to happen with our Saturday mail.
Yeah, did you hear that? 8 or 9 days of operating service. Saturday mail still is happening, but part of this new reform is to get rid of it. It's certainly a dire financial state, but he does say that they've been here before, they've dealt with this kind of pain, and there's even something to potentially cheer about as far as business goes.
The big change will be packages. We'll have about a 12% lift in packages. We think a total for the season of about 420 million packages.
420 million packages to be shipped this holiday season. That's a bump up, as he said, of 12%. It's better. Still, big picture, the post office has lost more than $40 billion since 2007. Partly on less mail. People don't pay their bills by mail anymore. They don't send greeting cards. But mainly it really has to do with this obligation that the post office has to pay $5.5 billion a year for health fund for future retirees. That is the law. So what needs to happen here, according to the Postmaster General, Congress needs to act. It needs to pass his proposed reform.
We'll continue to do what we do. We do a great job delivering the mail. There are other efficiencies that we pursue ourselves. We'll continue with that. But Congress has to act. They have to act now and get this resolved.
And that reform includes that controversial ending Saturday delivery plan. That's part of the effort here to save money. It also restructures the employee health benefits. It's been overshadowed by partisan fights, the shutdown, debt problems in Washington. He says that has to happen immediately because the post office is hanging by a thread.
It really is. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for bringing that for us. Sarah Eisen, our Bloomberg surveillance anchor, and we'll return in 2 minutes.
Being a precise investor is all a matter of focus. A reminder from Spider ETFs. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Call 1-866-787-2257 for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully.
Opportunities aren't always obvious. Sometimes they just drop in. CME Group can help you navigate risks and capture opportunities. We enable you to reach global markets and drive forward with broader possibilities. CME Group, how the world advances.
It is 56 minutes past the hour, which means Bloomberg Television is on the markets. Remember, we had just moments ago some pretty big numbers coming out on jobs in October. 204,000 jobs created, much higher than the 120,000 that economists expected. The jobless rate staying at 7.3%. We are on the markets again in 30 minutes. And coming up in the next hour, Whole Foods is facing a slowdown in same-store sales. A strong competition from organic brands heats up. CEO Walter Robb will talk to us about the outlook for the popular supermarket chain. And Mohammed El-Arian from PIMCO will be joining us in a moment.
Opportunities aren't always obvious. Sometimes they just drop in. CME Group can help you navigate risks and capture opportunities. We enable you to reach global markets and drive forward with broader possibilities. CME Group, how the world advances.
雇用統計発表後28分経過しましたけども、今回の雇用統計ですね、非農業部門雇用者数がプラスの20万4000人、失業率が 7.3% ということで、かなり、サプライズな、結果に、終わってますね。それを受けて、ユーロドルとドル円ですね。で、ドル買いの流れが強まるような結果となってますね。現在、ユーロドルが 1.33 の84、ドル円が98円の55銭。でユーロ円が131円の95銭。で、オージードルが 0.94 ちょうどで、推移しております。